Well, everybody, welcome to a special edition of the Salt Talk with Jermine Alberty. This episode, the tables were turned as I was interviewed by a good friend and the host of the show, Unbossed and Unbothered, Rashaan Gilmore. We had an honest conversation and thought-provoking discussion about perfectionism, fear, mental health, and the courage to move forward. I want to encourage you to take in this episode, and I am so excited for this collab. This is Jermine Alberty, and you listen to a special edition of the Salt Talk.
I'd like to transition to the feature interview for today's program. And it is a voice that many of you have heard before and that I hope, fingers crossed, will be a regular contributor to our program here in this hour because he just brings such heft to the topics that we discuss. And today's topic, I think, is going to reach a lot of people right where you are. I'm really excited to bring on, once again with me, Jermine Alberty. Jermine Alberty is not in his first appearance here, as I mentioned, but he is a faith leader, author, consultant, and mental health educator dedicated to helping people live with purpose and resilience. He's the host of the Salt Talk podcast with Jermine Alberty, where faith, leadership, and real-life conversations meet. And through his work with faith communities and organizations across the country, he is empowering individuals to transform their lives and their communities. Jermine, welcome back to the show.
Good to be back always, my friend.
Well, I hate that I had to bring you on after such a heavy topic there, but I knew that you could handle it. And I know that this next topic that we're going to be discussing with the audience today is one that many can relate to. And I think that for a lot of us, Jermine, we find ourselves sometimes stuck. You know, I talked earlier in the broadcast about the cacophony of noise that we're all trying to find our way through most of the time. There's always something in the news or some headline or something going on, or we find ourselves really just being overwhelmed by life itself. You know, a pound of ground beef costs, what, $12 these days? But I think when we're talking about trying to make progress in our lives when perfectionism feels safer, I know there are so many people who are struggling to find a pathway for themselves, but they can't seem to either get going, or perhaps they feel like they are, they maybe shot their wad in the sense that they've gotten as far as they can go and they're stuck. I wanted to talk to our listeners today about what it takes to make progress when perfectionism feels safer. Let me rephrase this. Can you share with our listeners what you shared with me earlier today?
Most definitely. So when we're aiming to get a thing done, what keeps us from doing it oftentimes is perfectionism. And instead of even starting it, we don't even start because the goal in mind is it just has to be just right. Perfect plan, the perfect start, perfect this. And we don't even get started because we get stuck in the ideal that it has to be a certain way before we even do it.
Where does that pressure for perfectionism come from? I mean, is it fear?
It starts for many people with that whole ideal of getting a happy plate.
Okay, say more about that.
So think about this. When you were a little kid growing up, you only got praise when you did the right thing.
Mm.
You got the sucker. You got the praise. You got this. Good job. Good job. Only when you did it just the right way. Only when you achieved the A. Only when you achieved this. You got $1. If you got an A, you got whooped or you got a C.
Right.
So I think it is embedded in us sometimes from you that if you just don't get it right, then you're not good enough, which kind of then goes to this ideal of I have to be perfect to get praise and to be accepted. And I can start very early in life.
And so is there a voice in the back of our heads, maybe, that's telling us that we're not ready, we're not good enough, we're not smart enough or whatever. And so therefore perfectionism becomes the goal, because then I'm unassailable if whatever I produce. And again, we could be talking about anything, right? We're not just talking about maybe starting a business. It could be almost anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it, though, is those barriers that are already natural for some people: the inequity, being male, being female, being Black, being from a lower class. All those different things could be things that we already have in front of us to go, man, I'm already three things behind before I can even get into the front of the line.
Yeah, that's good.
And so when you're taught that growing up, that you have to be even better if you're Black, to be even better if you're this, to be even better. And so in essence, it says that you have to work harder, 10 times harder, in order to achieve a thing. And so you always find yourself trying to make sure you're better and better and better, which leads to this ideal of perfectionism. And so my thing is, aim to get better, not perfect.
Aim to get better, not perfect. It reminds me of something that one of our mutual friends, LaShonda Hamilton, used to always say to me when we were in business together. She would always say, friend, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Right. And I think that some of the pressure that many feel, particularly if you're bringing a product to market, let's say, and you're pouring blood, sweat, and tears into it. You want acceptance. You want to make money from it or whatever. And you feel like you've got to get it perfect. Otherwise, that's your one and only chance, or people won't like it, or they'll talk bad about you, that sort of a thing. I also wonder if you agree with this thought that I have had for a long time now, which is that really perfectionism is procrastination wearing an appropriate mask. In other words, we allow perfectionism. I got to keep tweaking it. I got to keep working on it. Instead of just putting it out there, whatever it may be, your new song, your new podcast, your new product, instead of just putting it out there to test it, to see what you learn once you are, doing the thing, or to see what your customers, if you have them, really think of what the thing is. But we use perfectionism as a means of procrastinating, because then we feel safe. Well, I got to keep working on it till it's perfect, when really we're just putting off getting it out there. Or am I completely off base?
No, you listen, you are on base. I am a baker. I love baking. You like to bake too.
I do.
And I baked this pound cake, and I don't know if I didn't wait for the pan to cool down enough. When I flipped it over, the crust of it got stuck in the pan.
Oh, don't you hate that? Don't you hate that?
And I was like, I cannot serve this cake to anybody. I cannot get this cake out to anybody. I want it to be the perfect cake, perfect brown, perfect this, but it has that piece missing. Somebody ate that cake. They said, "Boy, you better give me that cake."
Right, but that's the point, though. To the people who are waiting for what you have to say, what you have to deliver, they're not looking for perfection. No. What they're looking for is whatever the assistance is that they need, or the product that they want. And here you are abusing yourself, basically. And I know I've been guilty of this a lot in my life, even the things that I have brought forth. Whether it's this show or work that I do in other parts of my life, there are so many times where I have been the negative voice in my own head, telling myself, well, you can't move forward because it's not good enough yet. And I really feel like what underlies that is a fear that I'm not going to get it right, or people won't like it. And if I can just keep working on it. But what happens when we spend so much time working on the thing instead of delivering the thing? What happens to us? Because I feel like in some ways we find ourselves in a bit of like a hamster on a wheel, in like this doom loop.
Yeah. And here's the thing about it. People would call it being paralyzed or paralysis or being stuck. But really what it really is being overwhelmed.
We're overwhelmed. Yeah. Say more about that.
So when you're overwhelmed because everything is coming at you all at one time. And so you feel like, oh my God, I can't get this done. And here's the first part in it. It's having the courage, that inner strength to speak to yourself and say to yourself, listen, take this, as both of us talk about, the elephant. one bite at a time. So we have to deconstruct what is making this so overwhelming for me. But I think this is a segue that I want to talk about, and it's so important, and is those friends of ours and neighbors who have a mental health challenge, where it could be ADHD, it could be OCD, it could be generalized anxiety disorder, it could be something that is illness that is causing that person to not be able to move past the mark. Because it's not just them being perfect, it is their brain itself fighting against them, keeping them from moving forward. And so I think there's this key thing I want people to think about. It's called D. The D stands for duration. How long is this going on? The F stands for frequency. How frequent is this? And the I stands for impact. So duration, frequency, and impact. So if this is going on in your brain, it's been going for months at a time, talk to somebody about that. If it's every day, day in, day out, it's just happening, talk to somebody. And if it's impacting your relationship, your work, your job, talk to somebody about that. Because it could be more than just trying to be perfect. It could be something developing within you that is challenging your mental well-being.
Well, I just want to say, as someone who, and I had no intention a few weeks back when we had you on of disclosing my neurodivergence. Of course, if you've met me or listened to this broadcast, you probably picked up on that yourself if you know anything at all about ADHD. But I am someone who's late diagnosed in life, and I used to frequently joke about my undiagnosed, unmedicated, ADHD. And it is hereditary, and it does run in families. And I have several family members who because of the particular type of, ADHD that they had, were able to be diagnosed sooner. And it was the truly hyperactive, just external. So you see all this energy just constantly all the time bouncing off the walls. And I'm a high energy person, but not like that. My particular version of ADHD is what's known as inattentive. And it's not that I can't focus. It's just that I don't always get to choose what my brain wants to focus on. I don't get to discipline it the way I want to. And so a lot of times, if it's not novel or new or interesting, then I just can't get into it sometimes, or I have a harder time. Now, I've learned a lot of, as many of us have had to do, different masking behaviors and tips and hacks and techniques and things. And so I've gotten better about knowing when I'm in that space, but the pendulum can swing completely to the other side where I can get into a hyper focus mode. And many people living with ADHD talk about, it as a superpower. I'm not there yet with it where I feel like it's a superpower, but the ability to hyper focus, I can get, it could take me 2 weeks to get something done that could have taken 15 minutes, but I have those days too where I can get a week's worth of stuff done, in 4 hours. But I mentioned the hyper focus piece of it because it can be very, very easy. So when you talk about that duration, frequency, impact piece, where because of the hyper focus, I want to know everything about a particular subject or an idea. And so I am down the rabbit hole. I am probably a junior expert on it. But at some point, you've got to flip that switch. So even if, as you're talking about, you have someone that's got a neurodivergence or some other issue that may be, informing how they approach work, how do you snap out of it? That's the best term I have. So I apologize if I offended anybody with that. But how do you snap out of that and actually do it?
I was going to say, I think we got to make sure people understand that mental illness or mental health challenges is episodic. Just like any other episode that you may have, like with a heart palpitation or some kind of other physical health challenge. It's episodic. It's not every day, constant. Sometimes it is episodic, meaning it occurs for a period and ends for a period, which makes it really tricky because all of a sudden you're high functioning, everything's going well, you're laughing, hee hee ha ha, and like, oh, and then you're depressed, down on stuff.
Right.
Oh, he was faking, she's faking. No, it's an episode. It's an episode. And so there's these moments where you're doing well and you're recovering and you're getting better. And there's those moments where you're in the pit and in the hole. And so it's not a matter of snapping out of it. It's a matter of having a coping strategy and friends that can know the signs and symptoms and say, friend, if I don't call you back in a matter of 48 hours, you call me. Friend, if this happens and my attitude shifts, it could be this. It is literally that accountability partner. It is that advanced directive, if you would, to say, if you notice this, hey, do this. And that way, I don't have to wonder how to support you when you're experiencing an episode. We've talked about it already.
So I appreciate that very much. And it makes me think to ask you this question. So if, regardless of your reasons, if you're a person with neurodivergence, if you're not, but you're somebody who's trying to get something out there, you feel, destined, or you have a desire to do something, put some product out there. It could be, you want to open up a cupcake business. I don't know. It could be anything. We know what happens, because we've been talking about it, when you don't take the step and actually put it out there, right? And you let perfectionism mask your, procrastination. But let's talk about what benefits come when you do take the step to put it out there, because I imagine for most people, once you finally do it, there's great relief that is experienced, if nothing else.
Yeah. I would say this. Listen, if you are feeling that you can't put it out there because you're fearful what people are going to think about you, because typically that's what it's rooted in, fear, then get your little focus group with folks you trust. And like, guys, I got an ideal. Get you 2 or 3 people. What you think about it? Give me your honest opinion. And that way you've done it, right? It didn't go out on Facebook. It didn't go out on social media. No, just your own little study group, focus of the group, and say, what you think about this? Get that honest feedback. And what happens is it's out of your mind now, where it gets stuck.
Yeah, it can really torture and haunt you.
Yeah. It's out of your mind where it's stuck at. And now it's out there on paper, or it's out there in a group, and get that feedback. And so for me, it's like, that way you're no longer stuck in it. Because what happens is that we get stuck in what I call the sunk cost mindset.
Ooh, this is
good. We invested so much time in a thing, and we're like, I can't let it go. I can't let it go. I can't let it go. And you hold it on simply because you invested all this time, energy, emotion into it. And just because you spent that time on it doesn't mean that you have to stay trapped in it.
And, another thing that I experienced too is that, we fear, you mentioned that word fear. I think a lot of times we fear the worst, and specifically what you said, we fear what other people are going to think about it and say about it. And, oh, you left your job and did what? Or this is what you told me, no, you couldn't go to this concert for because you had to go back and work on this thing. I read your book or your manuscript. And that's usually not even the case at all. But even if that is the case, then you have information that you can take and evolve into the next iteration of whatever the thing is. And I always like to quote Nelson Mandela, who said, I never lose. I never lose. I either win or I learn. And so I'm going to give you just the last 30 or 45 seconds here. Please talk to the audience about what that means to put something out there. You're trying it out. You're afraid that people may not want it, but I want to flip the script, or they may not like it. I want to flip the script though, and ask you to talk about what it could mean for those who are waiting for what you have to offer, because it's in you for a reason to deliver that to the world. And so somebody's waiting for it, and what happens when you don't do it or you delay doing it.
Yeah. Here's the key thing. Don't get stuck in mass appeal. Don't get stuck in mass appeal. It doesn't have to please the masses, as long as it please somebody, and that one somebody is you. Don't get stuck in mass appeal, because once you get it out there and you've done it, then you can say, you know what, I put it out there, and now I'm going to let it do what it do. Just get real biblical real quick, real biblical.
Go for it.
Listen, some people plant and some people water and wait for the universe to bring the increase.
Break that down for us. What does that mean?
It simply means that sometimes when you are talking to somebody, you're planting a seed, an ideal, a concept. And the next person comes along and they water that seed, that ideal, that concept. But you're not in control of increase. That's not your role. You can pay for all kind of marketing. It may not go nowhere. Sometimes it's that universal alignment, connection, that will bring increase beyond your wildest imagination. But at least plant the seed. And as you would say, don't eat your seed, plant your seed.
That's right.
Plant the seed, water the seed, and look at God bring increase to the universe, or whoever your greater power is. Believe me, it can happen.
That's fantastic. I always appreciate having you on, Jermaine. You've been listening to Jermine Alberty with Salt Initiative. Jermaine, where can our listeners find you and find out more about your work?
Saltinitiative.org.
saltinitiative.org. You've been listening to Jermine Alberty here on Unbossed and Unbothered, my special guest today. I'm really thankful for you, Jermaine, and we cannot wait to have you back. I want to thank you, our listeners, for tuning in for another episode of Unbossed and Unbothered with me, Rashaan Gilmore. Thank you so much, Kansas City and surrounding areas. And those of you listening online, for the pleasure of your time. You're listening to 90.1 FM, KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio.
Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that episode with me and Rashaan Gilmore. What a pleasure and privilege it is every time I get a chance to do an interview with my dear friend. Listen, I want you to know there'll be future collaborations coming up in the future. And I am so glad that you took the time to listen to another episode of the Salt Talk with Jermine Alberty.